Hello there, welcome to my channel. My name is Doug and I'm back with another fountain pen review. I'm excited to be finally doing this review because I received this pen more than 5 months ago, and in that time the name of the manufacturer has changed 3 times. This is the Moonman C3. Of course, we all know Moonman. I've got at least 50 videos in a playlist about Moonman pens. But what was once simple is now confusing, because Moonman is no longer Moonman, but have changed their name first to Mojiang and then MaJohn. I'm told this has something to do with some kind of copyright infringement with Kaweco. Apparently Kaweco own the name Moonman. Not that they've ever used it. Can you imagine? The new Kaweco Moonman. It's green.
It's green.
And they've obviously told Moonman to cease and desist. So, Moonman has gone back to the Chinese version of Moonman, which is Mojiang. I'm not pronouncing that right, and I guess that was too difficult for Westerners like me.
Oh, and I suppose my boots and spurs are ridiculous too? Patooey.
To pronounce, so they're calling it MaJohn. My John, your John. Everybody gets a John. So whatever you want to call this pen, I'm just going to continue calling it a Moonman. So sue me. So let's take a look at this Moonman Mojiang MaJohn fountain pen right now. And it's in one of these Moonman plastic cases. And yes, it still says Moonman, not Mojiang, which is the new name for Moonman, Mojiang. And it has some Moonman instructions, an eyedropper, and this is, yes, a Moonman C3. Now I got this one to compare with my other Moonman eyedropper fountain pens. But I was interested in this because it has some interesting features to it. It has a little roll stop here. Wanted to see if it posted. Yeah, it posts okay. It doesn't backweight the pen, makes it very long. And it has an O-ring right there, I can feel it. And a cartridge converter with one of those agitators in it. So that's a pen BBS converter right there, same size. And it has a number 5 size nib. And the other interesting thing about this is that the cap threads are up here on the section. One of the original pen BBS pens used to do that as well, the 266. Before they made it a 308, put the cap threads right there. So that seals that nib in that smaller section there. Keep it from rolling off your desk. Well, we'll check this out and compare it with my other eyedroppers. See how much ink it takes and how well it writes. And what we're going to do today is go over the parts and features of this pen, show some size comparisons, some measurements, and then provide a writing sample. After the writing sample, please stay tuned as I will talk about what I like and what I don't like so much about this fountain pen. When I first saw this fountain pen on eBay, I was intrigued, as I thought Moonman had combined some of the best features of the M2 and the C1. The Moonman M2 was incredibly popular when it first came out. This clear eyedropper with the number 5 size nib and huge ink capacity sold like crazy. And then when the C1 came out, it was a nice upgrade to the M2 because it supported a number 6 size nib and even greater ink capacity. For me, the M2 was a cool pen, but I didn't use it much. The nib is a little small, and the cigar shape with no clip rolls around on your desk quite a bit. Still, it's a very cool little pen. The C1 has a great nib, and I really like that section, but the large cylindrical size of the body and the lack of posting were drawbacks. So when the C3 came out, it looked like Moonman had put the 2 pens together. And they included some colors that were not offered in the M2 or the C1, both of which were only available in clear. They seem to have solved the issue of the M2 rolling around on the desk by fitting it with a roll stop. And the tapered end finials allow for posting of the pen. I was disappointed, however, that the nib is the same size as the M2. But let's take a look at the details of this fountain pen. Overall, the pen is cylindrical in shape with a slight taper on both the top and bottom finials. From the top, we see a flat top, clear acrylic, that tapers up to a cylindrical cap which is straight all the way to the end. This is one of the things that Moonman does really, really well. This is beautiful, clear acrylic. And it's nice to see it in some colors now as well. This small piece of chromed metal with Moonman stamped onto it is glued onto the acrylic, and it's supposed to be a roll stop. It's definitely not a clip. So if the clip is important to you, this pen won't work for you. And as a roll stop, it doesn't really work all that well either. If that pen wants to roll off your desk, it's going to roll off your desk. There's a very, very small step down to the barrel, which is straight almost to the end where it tapers to another flat-ended solid piece of clear acrylic. The cap unscrews with 1 and about a half turn to reveal a tapering clear acrylic section and the number 5 size gold-colored steel nib. The section tapers in sort of 2 steps and then becomes a little bit concave, and the cap threads are on the end of the section towards the nib. Let's get a closer look at this nib. There's some nice scroll work, and then the Moonman logo, and then Moonman, super quality, and an F for fine. And there's a look at the plastic feed. The nib and feed are part of an assembly that unscrews from the section for replacement or maintenance very, very easily. It is not swappable with the M2. The nib might fit in the M2 collar, but the collar isn't swappable into this pen. The section unscrews to give you access to the ink chamber, which has a huge 4 milliliter capacity. And the end of the section has a silicone O-ring to help seal those threads. Just for safety, you might want to put some silicone grease on those threads as well. And as I showed in the unboxing, this pen comes with a converter, so you don't have to eyedropper it. I have actually filled this pen as an eyedropper and been writing with it for a while like that. But the converter, just to look at it, it is an upscale converter, so it can be disassembled for maintenance, which is good. And it has one of those wide throats. And I said in the unboxing that it looks like a Pen BBS converter. Here's a Pen BBS converter, and you can see that it fits right in, no problems. So if you're looking for a converter for your Moonman, use the Pen BBS. This is the one that came with it, and it fits nicely and it works nicely. Unlike the Pen BBS pen, this throat on this section will not accept Parker long, Parker short, or Lamy cartridges, where most Pen BBS pens do. The inside of the cap shows those cap threads which meet with the end of the section, and there's a step right there that meets with the end of the section to seal the nib. And I like that the nib is aligned with that little roll stop as well. The cap posts, but just barely. It's fairly secured on the end of that finial. I wouldn't push it on there too much. I'd be worried about cracking that acrylic. The cap is so light you hardly feel it on the end of the pen, but it does make the pen fairly long in the hand. Unposted, the pen is just long enough to be comfortable, and that section is nicely curved to make the pen very comfortable to write with. I bought this pen on eBay for $24.97, and it is available in 2 nib sizes, EF and F, and in 3 colors, clear, this haze blue, and dark blue. Now let's look at some size comparisons. And here is the Moonman C3 with a Moonman C1, a Moonman M2, a Moonman T1, and a Moonman T2. The Moonman C3 C1 and M2 are all eyedroppers, where the T1 and the T2 are piston fillers, the T2 being a spring piston filler. Now let's look at them posted. And here they are posted. The C1 does not post at all, and the others post to one degree or another. The C3 and the M2 are both number 5 size nibs, where the C1, T1, and T2 are all number 6 size steel nibs. And just a small note here, I recently purchased this wrench, advertised to disassemble the Wingsung 699 piston filler. According to Chris Rapp 52, this wrench also works on the Tianzi piston filler. I gave away my Wingsung 699 piston filler and kept my Wingsung 699 vacuum filler, so this wrench isn't needed on this pen, except for the this little section here, which helps you take off that end piston knob. But I wanted to see if this wrench worked on the Tianzi, and it does. And surprise, surprise, it also works on the Narwhal Porpita. And I've just discovered just now that it works on the Moonman T1 as well. Extend that piston all the way, and then just slide this wrench right on that flatted spot, and you can unscrew that assembly. So that's a nice bonus. Now let's look at some measurements, and I'll be back with a writing sample. And we're back with the writing portion of the review. This is Clairefontaine 90 GSM paper, and this is the Moonman Mojiang MaJohn C3, not B3. And it has a number 5 size steel nib. That's a lot of names. Let's check the wetness. This nib is really wet. For a very fine nib, it's remarkably wet. And the nib is very smooth with feedback, as you'd expect from a fine nib. And the ink today is Waterman Mysterious Blue. Here are some close matches for this ink from inkswatch.com. And for line variation, well, it's a very stiff nib, so you're not going to get any line variation much at all. This is a fine nib, but it's running finer than many other Chinese fine nibs. This one, the line thickness is 0.4 millimeters, which makes it a Western extra fine, or a Japanese fine. And for our quote, and for some reverse writing, well, this is a a tad thinner. The feed seems to be keeping up fairly well, and it is actually smoother this way than it is this way. A little bit drier, but very interesting. And some quick writing. As you can see, very wet, and that feed is keeping up very, very well for a fine nib. That's excellent. So what do I like and what do I not like about this fountain pen? Well, there's a lot to like about this pen, from the cylindrical shape with the tapered flat top finials to the beautiful clear acrylic and the huge 4mm ink capacity. This pen has a lot going for it. I like the look of this roll stop, but it could be a little bigger and actually stop the pen from rolling all the way across your desk. A little nudge and it's fine, but if it rolls, it's going to keep rolling. I suppose they don't want to put a clip on this pen to dissuade people from putting an eyedropper pen with no shutoff valve into their pockets. And beware of eyedropper fountain pens that are less than half full of ink. The air inside there will expand with just the heat of your hand alone and burp ink out the nib. You've been warned.
He slimed me.
That's great! I feel so funky.
But then we get to where the rubber hits the road. There's actually nothing wrong with this nib. For a fine nib, it's very smooth and incredibly wet. But this pen needs a number 6 size nib, in my opinion. They've tapered this section down quite small in 2 steps to get to that tiny nib. And the section on the M2, as you can see here, is even bigger than the C3. And it's fascinating to me how the entire C1 section actually fits inside the C3 barrel. Look at that.
Transplant my head onto another body.
And of course the cap won't go on. It goes on, but there's no threads there for it. But look at that. I'd say that this Moonman C2.5 is much better pen than the C3 or the C1. And I like this concave section from the C1 as well. This is much better. This whole pen right here is much better. So a C1 that posted and had a clear acrylic section, a number 6 size nib, cap threads on the end of the section, like on the C3, a 4mm ink capacity, and multiple clear colors would be a great improvement on both pens. I'd buy that for $1.
I'd buy that for $1.
So perhaps we'll see a Moonman C5. They seem to dislike the even numbers in the C series, and the M series gets even numbers, it seems.
A Herman series, an Oscar series, a whole plethora of series, in fact. But only one
Moonman. And there you have it. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell to get instant notifications whenever a new video is posted. And don't forget that you can join as a member of my channel for only 99 cents a month, and I guarantee I will answer your comments in the comment section, and you get cool emojis and badges too.
Good.
And that just leaves it for me to say thank you for watching. And that's all she wrote.
I made this.